Don't open it. My brother's voice shook as he grabbed my wrist. I looked down at the old white envelope in my hand. It had our father's handwriting on it. To my sons. Open together. Dad had been dead for only 3 hours. I stared at my older brother Ethan, and for the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. Why are you acting like this? I asked. He swallowed hard. Just not tonight. I pulled my hand away. What's in this letter? The inheritance. Did Dad leave everything to you? Ethan's face turned pale. And at that exact moment, I became convinced my brother was hiding something from me. But before we start today's story, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. My name is Daniel Parker and I'm 28 years old. My father, Richard Parker, had been sick for almost a year. Cancer. The doctors kept telling us to prepare for the worst, but somehow I still believed he'd get better. Maybe because Dad had always seemed indestructible. He was the kind of man who could fix anything. Broken cars, broken pipes, broken hearts, especially mine. I was 10 when my mother died in a car accident. Dad raised Ethan and me by himself. He worked long hours and still found time to attend our school events. I worshipped him. Ethan did too, or at least I thought he did. The strange thing was that during Dad's final month, he started acting differently around Ethan. Sometimes I'd walk into the room and they'd stop talking. Other times I'd catch Dad staring at my brother with sadness in his eyes. I asked him about it once. He smiled and said, "Some things become heavy when you get old." I didn't understand. Now he was gone, and my brother didn't want me to read his last letter. We sat in Dad's living room. The house felt empty. His glasses still sat on the coffee table. His favorite sweater was hanging by the door. Everything looked normal except for one thing. Dad wasn't there. I turned the envelope over in my hands. "Open it," I said. Ethan immediately stood up. "No." I frowned. "What do you mean no?" "I mean exactly what I said." I laughed bitterly. "Seriously? Dad's final letter and you don't want to read it?" He looked exhausted. "You don't understand." "Then explain." He opened his mouth, then he closed it. That made me even more suspicious. I stood up. "Did Dad leave you money? Is that it? Did he give you the house?" Ethan looked hurt. "How can you think that? Because you're acting guilty." He rubbed his face. "You need to trust me." I almost laughed again. Trust him? Over the past few years, Ethan and I had slowly drifted apart. He was 34, married, and owned a successful construction company. I worked as an auto mechanic. He seemed to have everything figured out. I didn't. Sometimes I felt like Dad preferred him. Maybe that's why I instantly believed the worst. I placed my hand on the envelope. "I'm opening it." Ethan suddenly stepped forward. He looked desperate. "Daniel, please." I froze. He hadn't called me Daniel in years. I stared at him. There were tears in his eyes. "Why are you crying?" I whispered. He looked at the envelope. "Because Dad made me promise." "Promise what?" "That I wouldn't let you read it." The room became completely silent. I blinked. "What?" His voice cracked. "He made me promise." I felt like someone had punched me. My own father didn't want me to read his final letter. That made no sense. I slowly sat down. "Why?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know. You're lying." "I'm not." "Then why did he write my name on the envelope?" "I don't know." He shouted it. Then he immediately looked guilty. Neither of us spoke. Finally, I asked quietly, "When did he tell you this?" Last night." I stared at him, while I was at work. Dad had called Ethan into his room and given him secret instructions. I suddenly felt excluded, like an outsider, like there had been one final conversation I wasn't allowed to be part of. Anger started building inside me. I stood up again. "Give me one reason not to open this." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "Because Dad was terrified." I stopped. Terrified? I had never seen my father terrified of anything. He kept saying that if you read it, everything would change. "What does that mean?" "I don't know." "Stop saying that." "I don't know." His voice echoed through the house. Then he sat down and covered his face. I had never seen my brother cry, not even at Mom's funeral, not even at Dad's hospital appointments. But now he was shaking. I looked at the envelope again. Suddenly, I wasn't thinking about money anymore. I was scared. What secret could be so terrible that my father wanted to hide it even after his death? I barely slept that night. I took the letter home. Ethan didn't stop me. He simply looked defeated. At around 2 in the morning, my phone rang. It was Ethan. I answered immediately. "What?" His breathing was heavy. "Don't open it." I sat up in bed. "Seriously? I'm begging you." I rubbed my eyes. "This is insane." He didn't answer. Then I heard something strange. He was crying. "I can't lose you too." My stomach tightened. "What are you talking about?" Silence. Then the call ended. I stared at my phone. "Lose me too? What did that mean?" I looked toward the envelope sitting on my dresser. Moonlight was shining on it. For some reason, I suddenly remembered something from childhood. I was maybe 7 years old. Dad and I were looking through old photo albums. I had pointed at one picture, a picture of a young man. "Who's that?" Dad quickly closed the album. No one important. I remember feeling confused because the man looked familiar, very familiar. He had my eyes, my smile. I never saw that photograph again. I climbed out of bed, walked to my dresser, picked up the envelope. My hands were shaking. I slowly slid my finger under the flap, and then I stopped. Something felt wrong. I don't know why. Maybe it was Ethan's voice. Maybe it was Dad's fear. Or maybe deep down, I already knew my life was about to change forever. I looked at the clock. 2:17 a.m. I grabbed my keys. 20 minutes later, I was standing outside Dad's house. The lights were on. I frowned. Who was inside? I quietly opened the front door. Then I heard voices. I walked toward the living room and froze. Ethan wasn't alone. An elderly man I had never seen before was sitting beside him. Both of them looked shocked to see me. The old man's eyes widened. Then he whispered something that made my blood turn cold. He looked directly at me and said, "My God, you look exactly like your mother." I stared at him. Then I looked at Ethan. My brother's face had gone completely white, and I suddenly realized he knew who this man was. I couldn't move. The old man kept staring at me like he'd seen a ghost. Then he slowly stood up. He looked like he was in his late 60s. He had gray hair, tired eyes, and trembling hands. But the strangest thing was his expression. He looked at me with sadness and guilt. "Who are you?" I asked. The man opened his mouth, but no words came out. I turned toward Ethan. "What is going on?" My brother didn't answer. I felt anger rising inside me again. "Ethan," he finally looked up. "Sit down. No, tell me who he is. Please, Daniel." "No," the old man took a deep breath. "I think I should leave." I looked at him. "You're not leaving until someone tells me what's happening." He looked at Ethan. My brother's eyes were red. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan whispered, "Dad never wanted this." My heart started beating faster. "What does that have to do with him?" Ethan looked at the envelope in my hand. "Everything." I looked down at it, then back at him. "What secret is in this letter?" Again, silence. I suddenly felt like I was standing outside my own life. Everyone seemed to know something except me. The old man slowly sat back down. He looked exhausted. "I never wanted to meet you like this," he said quietly. I frowned. "Meet me? Have we met before?" "No." "Then why are you acting like you know me?" His eyes filled with tears. "Because I've spent 28 years wondering what kind of man you'd become." The room went silent. I stared at him. I didn't understand. I looked at Ethan. He looked like he was about to break apart. I took a step back. "What did he just say?" Ethan covered his face with both hands. No answer. I felt a knot forming in my stomach. The old photograph suddenly flashed through my mind again. The young man, the familiar eyes, the familiar smile. I looked back at the old man. My breathing became shallow. No, that couldn't be possible. I laughed nervously. "This is some kind of joke." Nobody laughed. I looked at Ethan again. His silence terrified me. I pointed at the old man. "Who is he?" Ethan slowly lowered his hands. Then he looked directly at me and whispered, "His name is Michael Reed." I frowned. The name meant nothing to me. "So," a tear rolled down my brother's cheek. "So, he's the man from the photograph." Every hair on my body stood up. "What photograph?" "The one Dad hid from you." I couldn't breathe. I looked at the old man. He looked like he was in pain. I looked at Ethan again, and suddenly I remembered something else. When I was 13, I had asked Dad why I didn't look much like him. He had smiled and ruffled my hair. "You look enough like me." At the time, I hadn't questioned it. Now that memory felt different, terrifying. I slowly shook my head. "No." Neither of them said anything. I took another step backward. "No." The old man started crying. That scared me more than anything. I pointed toward the door. "Get out." He looked shattered. "Daniel, get." My voice echoed through the house. Ethan stood up immediately. "Calm down. Don't tell me to calm down." I couldn't even understand why I was angry. I didn't know anything. But something inside me was screaming. I looked at the envelope again. My father's final letter. The letter he never wanted me to read. Suddenly, I didn't want to open it either. I was afraid, terrified, because somehow I already knew the answer hiding inside it. The old man wiped his eyes. "I'm sorry." I looked at him. "For what?" "For every birthday I missed." I froze. "For every school event, every Christmas, every time you got sick, every important moment of your life." I couldn't move. He continued crying. "I'm sorry I wasn't there." The room started spinning. I looked at Ethan. He was crying too, and at that exact moment, I understood, or at least part of it. I felt sick. "No." The old man closed his eyes. "No," I whispered again. Then I looked at my brother. "Tell me I'm wrong." Ethan couldn't. I felt my legs becoming weak. I sat down slowly. Nobody spoke. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. Tick, tick, tick. Finally, I looked at the envelope. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold it. I looked at Ethan. "Is that why Dad didn't want me to read it?" My brother nodded once. I looked at the old man, then back at the envelope. I suddenly remembered Dad's face in the hospital. I remembered him squeezing my hand. I remembered him saying, "I love you more than you'll ever know." At the time, I thought he was saying goodbye. Now I wondered if he was apologizing. I slowly sat there, staring at the letter. The room was completely silent. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Whatever you decide, I'll stay." I looked at him. He swallowed hard. "Even if you hate me." "Why would I hate you?" He looked away. "Because I've known the truth for 6 years." I stared at him. "What?" He nodded slowly. "Dad told me 6 years ago." I felt another punch to my chest. 6 years. My brother had known for 6 years, and he never told me. I looked at him in disbelief. "You lied to me for 6 years?" Tears filled his eyes. "I promised Dad." I couldn't speak. Everything suddenly felt broken. My father, my brother, my memories. Nothing seemed real anymore. I looked at the envelope one last time. I took a deep breath. Then I slid my finger under the flap. Ethan immediately stood up. "Daniel." I looked at him. There was pure fear in his eyes. Then I looked at the old man. He was crying silently. I looked back at the envelope, and for the first time in my life, I was afraid of reading my own father's words, because I knew that whatever was written inside that letter, my life would never be the same again. My hands were shaking. I looked at Ethan one last time. He didn't say a word. I opened the envelope. Inside was a folded letter. I slowly unfolded it. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Dad's. I took a deep breath and began reading. "If you're reading this, then I failed to protect you from the truth. And if Ethan is standing beside you, then he has carried a burden that should never have been his." I stopped. My eyes filled with tears. I continued. "Daniel, I need you to know something before you hate anyone. I loved you from the first moment I saw you." I swallowed hard. 28 years ago, your mother and I separated for 6 months. During that time, she met someone else. That man was Michael Reed. The room disappeared around me. I could barely breathe. When your mother came back to me, she was pregnant with you. She confessed everything. I was heartbroken. I was angry. I wanted to walk away. I looked at Michael. He was crying silently. I looked back at the letter. Then I saw you on the day you were born. You wrapped your tiny hand around my finger, and something inside me changed forever. In that moment, I decided I didn't care whose blood ran through your veins. You were my son. I covered my mouth. My vision blurred. I kept reading. I raised you because I loved you. Not because I had to. Not because anyone forced me to. I chose you every single day. I started crying. Memories flooded my mind. Dad teaching me how to ride a bicycle. Dad sitting beside my hospital bed when I had pneumonia. Dad cheering at my soccer games. Dad hugging me after my first heartbreak. Every memory. Every moment. He had chosen me, again and again. I wiped my eyes and continued. "Michael never knew about you until 6 years ago. Your mother told him the truth shortly before she died." I looked at the old man. He lowered his head. The letter trembled in my hands. "He contacted me. I hated him for many years, but I realized something important. He wasn't the villain I had imagined. He didn't abandon you. He didn't even know you existed." I looked at Michael again. He was crying harder now. "He asked to meet you many times. I refused every time." I blinked. I continued reading. As I grew older and my health worsened, I began wondering if I had made the right decision. I kept asking myself whether I had stolen something from both of you. I could hardly see through my tears, so I told Ethan the truth 6 years ago. I asked him to keep my secret. I wasn't ready to lose you. I looked at my brother. He looked broken. For 6 years he had carried this alone. I kept reading. Then I got sick, and suddenly I realized I was running out of time. I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to tell you myself. Every day I tried, every day I failed. A tear landed on the paper. I wasn't afraid that you'd discover the truth. I was afraid that after learning it, you might stop calling me Dad. I broke. I started sobbing because I knew exactly how scared he must have been. The strongest man I had ever known had spent his final months terrified of losing me. I forced myself to keep reading. If there is one thing I need you to understand, it is this. Blood can create life, but love creates family. I couldn't stop crying. The letter continued. "Michael is your biological father, but I am your dad, and nobody can ever take that away from us." Silence filled the room. I read the final lines. "I have one last request. Don't let my secret destroy the family I spent my life trying to protect. Forgive each other, love each other, and remember me with kindness." Then there was one final sentence, "And Daniel, thank you for letting me be your father." I couldn't hold the letter anymore. It slipped from my hands. Nobody spoke. The only sound in the room was crying. I looked up at Ethan. His eyes were swollen. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I shook my head. "You carried this alone for 6 years?" He nodded. "I hated keeping it from you." I walked toward him. Then I hugged him. He immediately broke down. "I didn't know what to do," he cried. "I know. I didn't want to lose my brother." I hugged him tighter. "You won't." We stood there for a long time. Finally, I turned toward Michael. He looked terrified, as if he expected me to throw him out. I sat across from him. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I asked quietly, "Did you really not know about me?" He shook his head. "I swear, why didn't my mother tell you?" He wiped his eyes. "She wanted to repair her marriage. She thought telling me would destroy everything." I looked at him carefully. He seemed sincere. "I looked for you after she died," he said. "Your father wouldn't let me near you." I thought about Dad. For years he had protected his place in my life. I suddenly understood him. I looked at Michael. "What did you want from me?" He started crying again. I frowned. He smiled sadly. "I just wanted to see your face once before I died." Those words hit me hard, because I realized something. This man had lost 28 years, 28 birthdays, 28 Christmas mornings, 28 years of memories. And unlike me, he could never get them back. I looked at him for a long time, then I asked softly, "Do you like fishing?" He blinked. "Fishing? My dad loved fishing." He nodded slowly. "I do." I smiled through my tears. "Then maybe we can go sometime." He looked stunned. "You mean that?" I nodded. The old man burst into tears, and somehow I cried with him. A week later, we buried my father. Hundreds of people attended. I had never realized how many lives he had touched. After everyone left, I remained beside his grave. Ethan stood beside me. So did Michael. 3 men, connected by one person. I looked at Dad's name on the stone. Then I smiled because for the first time since his death, I understood something. He hadn't lied to me. He had loved me, completely, selflessly, unconditionally. I looked at the sky. "Thank you, Dad," I whispered. The wind gently moved through the trees, and somehow I felt at peace. Over the next year, my relationship with Michael slowly grew. We weren't trying to replace lost time. That was impossible. Instead, we simply got to know each other. Sometimes we'd have coffee. Sometimes we'd go fishing. Sometimes we'd sit in silence. And strangely enough, that was enough. But every Father's Day, I still visit only one grave. I still bring Dad's favorite flowers. And I still call him the same thing, Dad, because blood gave me life, but Richard Parker taught me how to live. And if this story taught me anything, it's this. The people who truly love you are not always the ones who share your blood. Sometimes family is the person who chooses you, sacrifices for you, and stays beside you even when they have every reason to walk away. Love is not proven by biology. Love is proven by actions. So if someone in your life has loved you, guided you, and stood beside you through your darkest moments, don't wait until it's too late to tell them how much they matter. And if this story touched your heart, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, because life can change with one letter, one truth, or one person who chooses to love you like family.